M2M is an international organization that envisions, develops, and commissions public artwork that monumentalizes movement making and collective action. We offer a new vision and an evolving process that is not just inclusive of the world's diversity, but also paradigm shifting, feminist, and centered in restorative justice. We believe monuments should elevate collective action, not hero worship, and we do this work through an intersectional feminist framework. We are a small but mighty staff, including Marcela Andrade and Aarya, Malik, and Kelsey Bogdan is with us today, who runs all of our virtual programs. We are also joined by an expansive international group of movement builders who you can find on our website. Thank you to our team, and thank you for joining our SpeakEasy series. SpeakEasy is our public conversation series where we discuss our current initiatives and ideas with our collaborators.
The archives being a place where people can encounter art that they then can sort of realize they can create themselves, right? Like, and I think, for monuments to movements, but also, specifically for urban art mapping, our George Floyd database, for example, even just seeing the art on the street in public space, I think for a lot of people was an inspiration to create art of their own and to engage in a public discourse and dialogue around, crisis in this point, social, political crisis, et cetera. But that people can be inspired by seeing this art. And that part of the reason why, our city, for example, wanted to get rid of a lot of this art and clean it up really quickly is because they knew that that's precisely what would happen, would be that people would be inspired by the art.
I think that it also helps us see the process of how movements grow and develop, right? Because thinking about Setu, okay, we've got this, it's really a portrait, it's really a memorial to one individual, but it spreads throughout the world and it becomes a movement. And so seeing that kind of transformation from George Floyd as an individual who were mourning to a movement that's much broader, I mean, it's really incredible to be able to see that play out. And I think an archive helps us track how that happens over the time.
Public artists aren't always in control. And a lot of the artists talked about this, right? Mel's talking about, hey, my work gets demolished sometimes. She sometimes has no heads up about that at all. A huge garden she's been working on for years is just leveled. And, and Lori Green talked about that as well in something that really took me back when she said, a goal here is that this memorial will not have to exist, right? If violence against women is no longer a thing, we no longer need this memorial. And that's, it just really stunned me because you're also looking at these as really extraordinary works of art and what she went through almost as this medium of other people's pain and experience that she translated and collaborated with so many other people. To hear her say a goal would be that this will no longer exist.
I think that what's most important is that there becomes some more acknowledgement that to build power, we need multiple strategies, and that building narrative and building collective will in culture is a power building strategy, and that it's not either or between organizing, policy, electoral organizing. Like, these are not choices we have to make that are either or. We don't need to have a scarcity mindset where we're like, we have to go all in on one. There's many strategies that need to go in alignment together for us to win. And that we can all work together to advance that forward.
Domestic workers are some of the most marginalized group of people. We are a very invisible workforce, and the reason for that is that we work behind closed doors. And behind those closed doors, it's just us and our employers. We do not have a HR, we do not have a middleman. It's just us. And so that's why it's very, very important, for us to to get involved with organizations like the National Domestic Workers Alliance, our local affiliates, and really get involved to fight and to create the visibility that we are seeking, the respect that we are seeking.
Historically, from a necessary standpoint, women have a longer tradition of working together in groups in order to mobilize, in order to affect change. And so that to me is sort of a tradition that comes along with just the reality of being women, of being, female identifying people. That, I think that happens a lot of times when you're part of any kind of marginalized group. You have to have collective action, because as an individual, you're sort of drowned out. So you have to build coalitions in order to make things happen.
Fundamentally, I've come to accept, and I'm working on in my own practice, that nothing is permanent, whether we erect a permanent monument or not. These things are always shifting and changing, dying, regenerating, rewilding, coming back to life, or not. I think M2M has embraced that as part of the philosophy as well. But I also think that artists work really well in the space of contradiction. There's a contradiction to making more things in a time of climate crisis. There's a contradiction in making a monument in the manner that we are questioning about monoliths, right? So, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I mean, I think one of the things in my teaching, which has been really tough, is that we've become monolithic in our thinking and are not embracing the contradiction. So perhaps a feminist practice is also embracing contradiction and understanding that's sort of the natural order of things.
I don't know another court in the world that's had such a diversity, if you like, of judges. And yet that's the diversity of a nation that's still very much in pain, that's still agonized, that's still searching for ways forward. There's a lot of conflict in our country, and the democracy can't be separated from healing the divisions of the past, from ensuring that the benefits of democracy are enjoyed by everybody, and just not by a new class of entrepreneurs or even a new class of well-organized workers. So all of these themes come together. In terms of M2M, I think our special contribution to the discussion was we didn't set out to build a monument. We didn't get a whole lot of artists to build a monument. We needed a court, a building for the nation to function. But we chose the site. We had competition for the architects. We chose the most daring project, and we filled that project with artistic sensibility, with feeling.
But essentially, this evolving need of mine personally to be in a space that I can contribute to being transformed, to allow others to feel themselves empowered, and to feel that it's a space in which they can dream to be part of a better system, a better society, and to have the laws in our country that allows them to do that. So if you should ask me, how do you sustain a democracy? For me, the question would be not how does democracy sustain itself, but how do we sustain it? It's because I feel that we play the major role. We are all the actors on the stage. The Constitution is merely the, if you like, the platform, the trampoline from which we bounce to experience life in a way that gives us reward. And in our case, we have a very good, strong, and fertile trampoline. And what we need is a government to lead it. And if they're not doing well, we should be able to voice our discontent and our dissent and push government to be accountable.
And I think also, Albie, really talking about past, present, and future, right? Building the court, building the philosophy, the tenets, the legality of the court on the ground that was also the jail and the prison and this unjust place. And I think for Neysa and I, why we really wanted to create M2M was that, everybody kept asking us, what do you think about knocking the head off of this one or taking that one down? And we're saying, yeah, take Robert E. Lee down, knock off the head of Columbus. But we still have to have the conversation of who we were, who we still are, and who we aspire to be. And so it's not a calcified endeavor. It's exactly, Albie, what you were saying. It's a porous endeavor. It's an evolving endeavor. We seek to create monuments as living, breathing, sometimes ephemeral kind of gestures of participation, self-reflection, and thinking about where we've been, where we are, and together where we actually want to go.
We here in the 18th and Vine District, it's a historically Black neighborhood of Kansas City. And so it's important for us to provide the context, for us to tell the story, for us to give the images, for us to, put forward the recordings, et cetera. We are the ones that are leading the charge on how we tell it. It's really very important for us to be the group leading that charge, not having it done for us, but us doing it. And so I think that's part of it in terms of monuments. It really is the people's opportunity to really put forward and showcase and show and demonstrate what's important to us, not just have a statue built on our property that we're supposed to love and rally around and celebrate, but really the other process of us being able to develop it.
Performing one's sexual identities, whatever they may be, multiple, individual, collective, has become almost the calling card for female and female identified subjects in the world. But it's also the source of the greatest level of oppression. So how do you free yourself by participating? Do you free yourself by not participating? Do you free yourself by being really, really good at it? What do you do? So, for me, this is really a struggle because it speaks to the underlying dynamic, right? If you don't know all the tools in the master's toolkit, you might be looking just for the bazooka. You might be looking just for the machete, but there might be this little tiny weapon that you think you can just stick in your bra, and not worry about. But in fact, it's the really big one, right? That actually colonizes your consciousness about what your freedom actually looks like.